Today, we get this beautiful gospel passage from John chapter 21. I'm pretty sure I could talk for an hour about John 21. I love this chapter of the scriptures, and I'm struggling to keep my homily short today. I'm going to do what I can to edit it down, but I've got a million things I want to tell you about today, and I'm going to try to focus it. I've spent a lot of time this week kind of re-studying and praying with this passage that I've preached on lots of times, and I suppose the thing that has struck me the most as I'm reading this, it's mostly in light of the conclave that's happening this week. What struck me the most this week about the gospel is the fact that it highlights Peter in a way that many times we don't hear Peter emphasized in the gospel on Sunday. There's such a emphasis on Peter's primacy, right? His role as first of the apostles. So this is at the end of the Gospel of John. So we've already heard all about Jesus' ministry. We've heard about Jesus' passion and death, his resurrection, and he's already appeared to the apostles in the upper room a couple of times. We got that last week. So this is now after that. And I don't know, these guys have been given the Holy Spirit. They're supposed to go be telling the whole world about Jesus. And Peter says, I'm going to go fishing. Okay, doesn't make sense to me, whatever. He's supposed to be fishing for men, and he's going to go fishing for fish. You do you. But Jesus is going to correct him here pretty soon. So Peter says, I'm going fishing. And what do all the other apostles say? We'll join you. So it's not all of them, but it's most of them go fishing that particular night. Remember, at that time in that world, they fished at nighttime. It was the best time to go fishing. They just kind of dragged the nets all night long trying to catch fish. And they catch nothing all night. And the next morning, as the sun is rising, Jesus is on the shore with the charcoal fire, and they don't recognize that it's Jesus, even though they've met him twice already. They don't recognize that it's him. He calls out and says, have you caught anything? They say no. And he says, well, then throw the net over. And so they do, and they get a big catch of fish. Now, this should be very familiar to us because this very similar miracle happens at the beginning of the Gospel of Luke. So we're jumping to Gospels here. But at the beginning of Gospel of Luke, this is kind of the start of Peter's conversion. There's a day when Jesus steps into Peter's boat and preaches to the crowds. And then he tells Peter to put the boat out into the water, throw the net over, and he catches a huge catch of fish. And this is the beginning where Peter falls to his knees and says, depart from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man, right? He recognizes who Jesus is. He's in awe. He feels so humbled that he's got his Messiah standing in the boat with him. So it's a kind of the beginning of Peter's story. So this miracle sure is similar to that moment. And so as soon as Peter realizes that it's Jesus, he jumps into the water, swims ashore while the rest of the guys try to drag the net. They say that the net was so heavy of fish that they couldn't even pull it into the boat. They just had to drag it alongside. So then Peter finds himself face to face with Jesus at the charcoal fire. Now, there's only one other mention of charcoal fire in the whole Bible, and it was just a few chapters before this when Peter denies knowing Jesus on Holy Thursday night. Right? Jesus has been arrested, and Peter and all the disciples flee, and Peter's afraid when someone says, hey, aren't you one of his followers? And he denies knowing him, but we're told that he was standing at a charcoal fire. So I'm sure that Peter noticed that Jesus had a charcoal fire in front of him. He probably remembers that moment from just days earlier. And so the two of them have this conversation, which seems to be Jesus eliciting a confession from him, at least a confession of love, right? He denied him 3 times, and now he's going to profess his love for him 3 times. And I love how Jesus phrases the question. He says, do you love me more than these? What these is he talking about? Do you love me more than these? In fact, even in the Greek, the original language, it's ambiguous what Jesus is referring to there as well. He could mean, do you love me more than these guys love me? That's a good interpretation. It could mean, do you love me more than you love these guys, the other apostles? That's also a good interpretation. It could actually be in reference to all the fish they just caught. Do you love me more than these? Because in a way, the fish represent the life that he lived before, right? He was a fisherman. This was his everything. He loved being a fisherman. This is what he knows. This is what he's comfortable with. Do you love me more than that profession? So Jesus is eliciting from him a proclamation of the wholeness of his love. Peter is first among the apostles. He's listed first. He's singled out. All the apostles sinned against Jesus, but Jesus singles out Peter for this moment of reconciliation. And Peter's going to be the leader, not just in teaching, not just in authority, but he's supposed to be the leader in love. He's supposed to love Jesus above and beyond everybody else and love Jesus more than he loves everything else in this world. So I just love that that's a emphasis of maybe this gospel passage. That's what Peter's supposed to be. That's what all the successors of Peter are supposed to be. They're supposed to be, yes, a sign of authority, but also the one who loves the Lord better than anybody else does. The last thing I'll highlight, which I find fascinating, when Jesus and Peter are at the fire, Jesus says, bring some of the fish you caught. Now, remember that net was so heavy they couldn't even load it into the boat, but according to this gospel, Peter goes over there, grabs the net, and drags it by himself. Like, that's pretty impressive muscles. But he drags the fish over there, and there's something that's symbolic here, I think. Jesus wants these guys fishing for souls, fishing for men. And here, he didn't catch anything all night trying to fish for fish. But here's the catch that the Lord provided. And Peter's job is to bring the Lord's catch to the Lord, to present God's catch to the Lord. You could say those fish represent us. And that's Peter's job, that's the Pope's job, that's any priest's job, is to present the people of God to the Lord. And that net is not torn, we're told. That's significant. Part of the role of the Pope is to maintain unity, is to create a unity of faith. And according to Catechism, it's unity in faith, unity in love, and unity in the communion of the life of the church. So the Pope is supposed to be this instrument of unity, holding together the net, holding together the catch, and presenting that catch to the Lord. I think it's timely that we get this gospel just a few days before the cardinals enter into the conclave to elect our new Pope. So I think it's a great time for us to be interceding for those cardinals, that they open themselves to the movement of the Holy Spirit. They would be men of discernment, seeking out the man who's not just going to be a leader in terms of authority, but he's going to be a leader in love and one who strives to preserve the unity of our faith.